Ooh, let's go ahead and do that intro video real quick as I Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. My name is Mitch Case. I will be your host today. I'm also the founder and CEO of a small business my wife and I started called More Than a Meal, where we get to help organizations strengthen their most valued relationships by showing gratitude or appreciation one meal at a time. The reason we started this live show was to really go out and highlight individuals that are working hard day in and day out to create a safe space for employees to come, what attracts those individuals to stay at work, enjoy work, be a part of a more positive culture. And I just recognize that maybe those people don't get the platform that they deserve. So I've gone about and I've gotten to speak with so many amazing individuals, and I'm just incredibly grateful for this show. And also our sponsor, True Captive. They have been a huge fan of what we have been doing and immediately wanted to jump on this. So if you haven't heard of True Captive, they believe in healthcare that is personal and insurance that isn't complicated. If you guys want to go and learn more about what True Captive is all about, just go over to the website at www.truecaptive.com and you can learn a lot more over there. Happy to get you guys introduced from that perspective as well. But with the guests that we've had, I'm really excited for today's guest. We've gotten a chance to talk a handful of different times, and what I've loved most is just she's new into her position right now. She's been in this role for a while, but with the company recently. So we're going to get some new perspectives as she's putting programs in place to make sure that this is a place that people want to stay and come to. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and do a little quick intro for Miss Amy Skyles. Amy possesses an unwavering determination to get things done while leading teams of professionals, inspiring them to carve out their own paths. So utilizing her expertise in human resources, she guides these individuals who recognize their current positions are merely stepping stones towards greater personal and professional achievements. I love that. Her passion really lies in aiding others, witnessing their career potentials unfold, supporting them, and taking small progressive steps towards their ultimate goals. And as the senior human resources officer at Phelps County Bank, she enables her to concentrate on areas where she can really make a true impact. So without further ado, Amy, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Mitch.
Awesome. Well, we made it just like 5 seconds before things, technical difficulties. This is a live show, so we were under the pressure to get it done, but Amy made it happen, and I'm incredibly grateful to have you on this show. I know you're going to have a lot of really great things to add to this and maybe some people getting value, but I always like to start this show with an impact story. So I would love to maybe have you talk a little bit about a story where the bank has made an impact specifically on maybe a team member or maybe even a client that really stood out to you.
Yeah, I thought really hard about this, and I think the best thing that I can do is share a story about our ownership mindset. So we're 100% employee owned, which is rare in industry at all, but especially in the banking industry, we're one of just a very few where our owners are all employees of the bank. So if you see someone, we all wear the same blue shirts. You know, if you see someone at the bank and they're wearing a blue shirt and you interact with them, everyone should hopefully have that same ownership mindset. And it's not just the mindset, but it's a responsibility that we all have to each other, to the business, to our customers, and to the community. And the story that I'd like to share is really about a journey that we've had in developing professionalism in our younger workforce and our emerging professionals that we have who come into banking. They're eager and they want to learn, and they may be able to do the skills really well, but starting off, sometimes they've just never been taught what it's like to be in that professional environment.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we have our growing pains just like everyone. And if I think back to the time when I was in my 20s or early 30s, I'm a completely different professional now than I was then.
For sure.
Even though I was in, you know, I was in a professional field. So just providing those growth opportunities is really important for us. And it's something that we've focused on over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now that I've been here.
All right. All right. There's a saying that in my head, it's like the older I get, the more I realize how little I know. It's just like the opposite. I thought I knew everything when I was 18 years old, thought I had my life figured out at 20, thought I had it figured out at 30. And here we are at sitting 35. And I'm like, man, I don't know anything. So interesting perspective on that end. I want to talk more on the ESOP side of things. I haven't talked with anybody about that yet. I know that it is kind of a trending, maybe an ownership perspective or a benefit of working at organizations. What are some of the biggest benefits that you see from an ESOP perspective for individual employees, all the way from maybe a brand new teller to maybe even executives in the bank?
Yeah, that's a benefit for sure. It's a benefit that provides a retirement for us. And that's how we receive our ownership shares, is through retirement. But it's also something that helps us establish just day-to-day procedures. We expect that we're going to give our customers an experience, not just customer service. And that experience should be one that brings that ownership mindset where they feel like they're important because they're able to really work with an owner. And that also sets us up for a sense of continuous improvement, making sure that employees feel like not only I can come in, I can do my job, but I can get better at it. And I can make things better for the bank, and that's going to impact my ESOP. So you hear it here all the time. I went around a couple weeks ago and I asked some of our newer retail staff and some of our more seasoned retail staff, and I started with the seasoned people. I said, what's the most important thing about being here? What's the most important thing about PCB? And they said a lot of, customer things, a lot of ESOP, growing the ESOP, getting better. And then when I went to that newer staff, they said the exact same thing. So I think we do a really good job of sharing that message that, the ESOP is a benefit and it's a reward with money, but it's also a big responsibility that we have to all work together to make it what it is.
It sounds like a huge sense of accountability in that too, of listen, the work that I do helps other people in the long term as well, because the better the bank does, the better we do. So I need to carry my own drive, my own goals into all of this and make that work. That's interesting. It's definitely a space where I could definitely learn more about on all the different components of an ESOP, but I can definitely see that creating a good sense of responsibility in that. Before we kind of kick over to the next section that I like to ask, I did forget to, if you're tuning in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. I know this is going to several different platforms right now, so let us know. And then if you have any questions as Amy and I are talking, go ahead and type those in the comments. We'll pull them up and we'll try to get those answered by the end of the show. So, all right, Amy, we're going to kind of transition into more talking specifically about PCB and what truly makes it more than a business. We just talked on the ESOP side of things, so I don't want to steal too much of that thunder, but what truly makes it more than just the profit that a bank might see at the end on a P&L sheet?
Yeah, one thing that we have really focused on over the last year is developing what our pillars are, our corporate values. And we have 5 values, and pretty much everything we do aligns with those values. And we're hoping to get our employee owners to also buy into those values, figure out how they apply to them professionally and personally. So the values that we've created are impressive customer experience. It's not just the transactional service, it's the experience from, if they walk into our downtown Rolla location, it is this beautiful old historic building that used to be a hotel. So it's different from a lot of banks. But it's the whole experience. There's the smell of the gourmet coffee in the lobby and those sorts of things. We also strive for world-class training and development, and I'm on a committee for that, and so that's an opportunity for people to get involved in really developing programs for our fellow employee owners. Uncommon ownership is another one of our pillars because of our ownership model. It's just uncommon and not something you see.
I like it. Uncommon ownership.
Yeah.
Is that literally the pillar?
Yeah, that's a pillar. Yeah.
I love it. All right.
Healthy habits. We don't just focus on, a lot of everybody, it's kind of trendy. Everyone's like, oh, work-life balance, and we want our people to be healthy, and we want wellness, and we want mental health, resources. We also focus on financial resources and financial health and financial habits, because that is important in our industry for us to not only teach our customers to build wealth, but to teach our employees. So we're trying to develop some programs with that. And then one that we really focus on a lot is our community champions pillar. As a community bank, we are out in the community all the time. We support every organization, every sports team. I mean, we are just out and about all the time. Our community isn't huge, and there are about 100 of us. And when I interview people, one of the first things they say when I say, what do you know about Phelps County Bank? Is they say, we see you guys everywhere. Part of it's our blue shirts, so we're recognizable. It's good marketing.
Are you required to wear those outside of working hours as well?
No, but we do all have quite a bit of PCB swag that's various different colors for different events. If we volunteer, we like to represent the bank.
Fair.
But we go out and we call it pride in ownership, and that's our way to be community champions, is to really show that we're proud of our community and to get invested and involved in whatever events or causes are meaningful and valuable to us as individuals. And so that gets us recognition as well. And it takes us way beyond the walls of the bank in ways that whether it be other financial institutions or other organizations in the community, may either not have the resources to do, or it may not be a part of their values. So that's a really big one for us.
Well, the two things that stand out to me is obviously like the champions side of things. I imagine some of that includes voluntary hours to nonprofit organizations to help in that perspective as well. Let's go back and talk a little bit more on I forget the exact pillar, but employee health and wellness. What did you say specifically about that?
So we call it our healthy habits, and we've developed a committee of employee owners for each one of these pillars. And so we have a committee that is devoted to
each individual pillar.
Yes, we have one committee for each pillar.
Interesting.
And the Healthy Habits Committee, they are tasked with coming up with challenges for different wellness events and different times of the year, based on what might be a certain month, like when you have Mental Health Awareness Month and those things, to make sure that we're focusing on that. But the newer challenge is also for them to develop resources for their colleagues, for our other employee owners, to help them really develop that financial maturity. Because when we are better at that personally as individuals, we are better able to serve our customers. So it ties back to that impressive customer experience as well.
Yeah. And what I really liked about the healthy habits was not specifically on what we immediately go to is eating healthy food or working out. There's so many other components that truly make you healthy, from removing financial burden, stress, or something along those lines. As an entrepreneur starting up a business, you're operating off of hardly any. And I can tell you right now, the finances is one of the most stressful things about starting up a business. And then it relays into your personal life as well, which just kind of lingers. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of conversations where I really appreciate that you guys are looking wider than just the typical physical and, food side of things. Although I operate a food business, I understand it. And I really, really do appreciate that, because it's a spectrum. It's a huge umbrella that really needs to be covered. The other piece that really stood out after you said all this, you had individuals that champion each pillar. I've never heard about that from a company. I've been at companies where we have our core values and pillars and all of that. And it's you read them on a wall and you hope that all of your team members can recite that, but you have individuals championing each. And why, what made you think to do that? Why is that the case? And what results have you seen from individuals championing each specific pillar?
That's funny, because until you said that, I didn't ever really think of that as something that's super innovative, but maybe it is.
I've not heard of it.
My background personally, I started in education, and I moved through from education into more from K-12 to higher ed, where it was more of an employee development, faculty development role, into HR, initially in an employee development role, before moving into the HR generalist role. So I do have this background and 20 years of experience and a passion for education and helping people develop. Like you said at the beginning, my little tagline, anyone who looks at me on LinkedIn sees that I say, I believe that where we are now is just a step toward where we can be, both personally and professionally. So for me, it's a passion to really be on this committee for world-class training and development. And soon as our executive committee said, you know what, we're going to put out a call for applications, and we sent out applications to everyone. We had a couple of requirements, but for the most part, it was really based on what their passions are, people who are already doing things in a certain area like pride and ownership, community service. And we interviewed everyone who applied. It was our executive committee and myself. We sat in a room for, oh gosh, I think it was like 3 days. And we gave every single person an opportunity to come in and explain why they were interested in, and they could apply for multiple committees, but to explain why they were interested in certain committees. It was a fantastic experience for them because we also promote from within whenever possible. And so it just gave, some people said, oh my gosh, I haven't been in an interview for 20 years. And it gave them that ability to really connect with that newer workforce, kind of going back to that professionalism and really building people up, because they had a similar experience, that they all came and they interviewed, and we narrowed it down to get the people who are really passionate and focused on each of those topics to help drive those initiatives forward.
Well, I mean, just from that answer alone, I can tell you why PCB is more than a business in general. I mean, you put your executives in the room to interview people already hired to champion each pillar to make sure that is, it just shows so much investment in making sure that anybody that walks through that door will experience those pillars, whether a client or a team member. I absolutely love that. And I kind of mentioned to you before we jumped on, like, one of the benefits of this show now is, like, I get to learn from experts like yourself and putting these little, I would have never thought about that. So kudos.
Well, it wasn't my idea. That was their idea. That was the executives.
Fair. You were the one that brought the information. I'm the same way. I don't make the quotes. I just repeat the quotes.
Yeah.
Awesome, Amy. I really, that definitely has me spinning on some different ideas for our organization as well. But all right, let's kind of transition a little bit into you specifically. I mean, you just hit a lot on, like, your passion for education, and I don't know if this will allude to that, but, like, what continues to motivate you every single day? Because I know anytime you walk in, you're maybe not having your best day, or it's something that you're just not looking forward to. It's not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. So what continues to motivate you to come in and truly make an impact on the bank itself, but also the individuals that you're blessed to be able to help and educate and serve?
Well, I'm kind of a weird person. Everyone who meets me is like, oh my gosh, how are you so motivated all the time? And I'm very values driven. So my personal alignment with our corporate pillars is important. I have what I call my 3 personal values, my core values: accountability, integrity, and growth mindset. And so even, my last job that I left, I wrote in my resignation letter, this was super dramatic. I was like, I have 3 core values and they are tattooed on my soul. And now that I think back now, I'm like, that's so stupid. But
I love it.
Yeah. And I can see how what I do on a day-to-day basis here is so much in alignment with those values. I hold myself accountable to make sure that I am continuing to really grow. And I have the integrity to make sure that if I say I'm going to help people with something, I'm going to do my best to make sure I'm, making those resources available. So that really helps motivate me to just keep going, is that I focus on those 3 things. Even when it's tough, I'll, try to find the silver lining, try to find the bright spot. But if I cannot do something with integrity, if I cannot hold myself accountable, and if I'm not growing and learning from it, even if it's a failure, I say fail fast and fail forward. If I don't have those 3 things, then I don't feel like I'm thriving.
I absolutely, like, that resonated with me a lot right there, with the idea of your own core pillars. And as you were kind of talking through all of this, I was sitting there and thinking, like, nothing you mentioned had anything to do with salary. It had accountability, integrity, and growth mindset. This is one of the reasons I left my previous company that I worked for, was because not the pay, but it didn't, I'm not just like, I'm going through this as I'm talking about it, but there were certain things that just no longer align with my core pillars or values internally. I don't have those defined, but I mean, I'm speaking to the choir as you in senior HR, but just like for everybody to hear this and take note is the sense that those are the things that you've got to hit that keep people motivated to show up every single day when it gets tough, because it's not about necessarily the pay, but if you continue to be invested in for your own growth and education, and whether that's leadership or skills or whatever that may be, obviously I feel like integrity is one of those things that's up to you from that side, but hopefully the organization has some integrity as well. But that just really like struck me as you kind of mentioned that, Amy, is I sit there and think for all these individuals that get to listen to this as an opportunity for investing in their team members on ways to like make sure that they retain their existing talent.
Yeah.
And
for me, the position that I mentioned, it's a fantastic company that I left. And that was part of why it was so difficult for me. And it was kind of a traumatic and dramatic thing. Personally, because it is a fantastic company, it is not the right industry for me. And I was at a point where I didn't want to learn any more about the industry. I actually said when I was interviewing here that learning more about that industry made me want to stick a screwdriver in my eye. And like, no one should feel like that. But then I said, that I had lost my growth mindset, and it was against my integrity to pretend like I wanted to learn those things and that I was valuing that. And so I had to hold myself accountable, and I had to find something, an area where I could thrive, where I could still make a difference for other people. Yeah.
And I feel like that's something we should all clarify, is like, my previous employer, not a bad company. Your previous employer, not a bad company, just no longer aligned. And at that point, that's when you start to see exits from that. So hopefully organizations can maybe get ahead of that if they do see some misalignment. And maybe it does just come down to, I'm no longer interested in learning about this industry. And that is what it is. I mean, we are all continuously growing. So greatly appreciate that insight. As we kind of transition, I had mentioned before, like, I'm so appreciative of each of our guests that come on, but you specifically coming on and just talking about some really cool initiatives that have helped PCB and yourself grow over time. And just as a token of gratitude for ourselves, we would love to be able to allow you to send a meal to a colleague of yours on behalf of More Than a Meal, to show them gratitude, appreciation, whatever reason that is. So do you have anybody in mind that you want to send a meal to, as well as you can tell us as much or as little as you would like to why, but maybe go ahead and let us know who you might want to send that meal to.
Yeah, and this is a former colleague, and I really hope he looked at my text message earlier, because he didn't. Hopefully he's watching. But so when I was, this is several jobs ago, I was in a position where I didn't feel valued for me. I felt like I liked the work that I did, but I did not feel that I had the appreciation that I needed, and I felt like I was kind of in a stuck spot. But I was really holding on to a pension. And after all of this time, I ended up writing what I call my rejection resume. And it's these 5 things that have happened to me throughout my career. And when someone's like, "You have it so easy," I like hand them this rejection resume. But anyway, this is a person who was like the super mentor, retired military, had been, I believe he had 31 years in the Army, and had all of these leadership experiences, and was a coworker, ended up being my research partner on my dissertation for my doctoral program. We drove back and forth from Raleigh to St. Louis every week for 3.5 years. It was like 12,000 miles. We made it halfway around the world, but we only made it as far as St. Louis. And he was the one, and part of it was those drives. He was the one who convinced me that I could do more than what I was doing, and that I didn't need to focus on that pension. As I'm like, I pick a path, and I'm like, I'm sticking with it. I finish things. But he really convinced me that I needed to make my career for myself and not wait for someone to give me the opportunity. And it's funny, you mentioned quotes earlier, like you can spout them off. I get a daily quote through an app on my phone. And just last week, one day it said, "If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door." And that's kind of what he taught me. And so I think helping other people is, I want to be that for other people. I want to help them realize they can be something else. And where they're at now, if that door's not there, build the door and make your own path. So his name's Jeff Jennings. He was my research partner. He lives here locally. He tells me he's about to actually really retire for real. He's
not sure yet, though. I love that. Well, Jeff, we'll get a meal headed your way soon if you're tuning in. sound like a great individual. So we will connect with you offline for that one, Amy, to make sure he gets that. But just again, thank you so much for coming on and just kind of giving us your perspective on a lot of this. I know I have taken away at least 2 things for sure out of this, if not more, when I go back and listen to this. But what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you if they have questions on maybe some of the initiatives, ESOPs, creating pillars with committees underneath of it? What's the best way for them to reach out to you to get that info?
I would say first, just reach out to me through LinkedIn. I'm always happy to connect with like-minded people. You want to look for Amy Skyles. I'm one of those middle name alias people.
I have seen it. I have seen it.
Yeah. If you look on LinkedIn, I believe I'm the only Amy Skyles on LinkedIn. But it's funny. Sometimes I say I'm active on LinkedIn, but I'm active on LinkedIn from 5 a.m. to 5:30 while I'm drinking my coffee. And other than that, like, I try to put it away. But it's definitely a good way to connect and find like-minded people, especially if you're in HR and you're in a smaller business and you're kind of that island of, not too many people that you can collaborate with. I can't share a lot of details about things I'm working on with people here internally, but I can bounce ideas with external people. So that's good. Yeah.
I think we have a lot of people that listen in on this in that specific spot so often, because they are kind of on an island inside of their organization, trying to make it bigger so they can have team members. So if you are not able to get a hold of Amy, just reach out to me as well. I'd be happy to get you connected one way or another. But again, Amy, thank you so much for coming on. Our next show is going to be on Thursday next week. We had to do a little bit of a flip and switch due to some illness that occurred earlier in the month, but we're going to have Janet McGinnis come on next week. I'm really excited to share some of the things that she has been talking to me about. But until then, we will be back next week. So appreciate it, Amy, and we will talk to you guys later.